Greetings. Welcome to another broadcast of I Have a Testimony. I'm your brother and your host, Brother Willie Muhammad.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us. He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Today, family, we are honored to have as a guest the one and only Dr. Boyce Watkins, often referred to as the People Scholar. He is one of the boldest people I know with a PhD. Dr. Watkins is a highly sought after African-American scholar, and he's in educational motivation, Black social commentary, and he specializes in financial psychology.
I think that Black people are horribly brainwashed into spending most of our time on just nonsense, on stuff that just isn't going to get us anywhere. And we sit there and we sit still, and then we wonder why we ain't going nowhere. Well, if you haven't gotten in the car and you ain't trying to move nowhere, then you're not going to go anywhere. Your life will be exactly what it was last week. So, people don't like to hear that. They get mad at me when I say that. But I can tell you, I was thinking about this a lot today because I saw this video by a man who talked about why people are trained to be poor from birth, how you're trained to be poor or you're trained to be rich. Rich people the ones who start rich and stay rich tend to have the advantage of having a certain mindset that is programmed into them at an early age, that is built on prosperity, that's built on abundance, that's built on possibility. And poor people are trained and programmed in the other direction. They're programmed to believe that the struggle is real. You ain't never gonna get out of it. You always gonna be poor. Who the hell you think you are?
So thank you, Dr. Watkins, for agreeing to be our guest on this show, my brother. We greatly appreciate it.
I'm honored to be here, man. Thank you so much.
And so I know you're a very busy man, so we'll get straight to the interview. You know, Doc, in preparing for this interview, I learned something about you that I was surprised to learn because of how intelligent and knowledgeable you are, that during your early days in school, you had some struggles, yet today you hold a PhD. So can you explain to us how you were able to overcome those educational struggles and to move on to earn your PhD?
You know, that's an interesting question because I don't know how easy it is to give a simple answer to that, but I'll try my best. I had a hard time in school because for the same reason that a lot of Black boys struggle in school, I did not see anything in school that really represented who I was or anything that I actually valued. As a kid, I valued, I guess I valued maybe the chance to one day make some money. I valued maybe getting some sort of esteem, maybe whether it's from my friends or from girls or whatever. And school just wasn't a place that I felt welcome. It just didn't fit, and also, to make matters worse, my mother and I strongly believe I've always had a kind of an ADHD thing that I just learned to manage naturally. And so, you're in school every day, you're acting a fool, you're jumping up and down, running around, running your mouth. And that started when I was in probably kindergarten. And my kindergarten teacher, who was actually a young white lady, went to my mother and said that your son was jumping up and down and walking around the classroom and constantly talking. And I said, I'm going to teach him a lesson. So she said, she let me walk around and kind of just, talk to the other kids and just do whatever I was going to do. And she said, I'm going to ask him a question. I'm going to ask him to repeat back what I just taught the kids. And she said, I asked him, and she said, he told me every single thing that I had just taught everybody else. And so what this white woman said to my mother was, she said, your son is gifted and they're probably going to try to put him on medication. They're probably going to tell you that something's wrong with him. She said, don't you let them do that. She said that he has a special intellectual gift. And I received that, I guess. And so years later, it's still there. Even as a 50-year-old man, I still act up I still, whether I'm talking to my wife and she wonders why I'm looking around and thinking about other things or doing something on my phone, but I'm hearing everything, and that fidgety behavior is still there. And also even publicly, I might go all over the place, but I gained that ability to kind of come back home. And I think that was just my style of intellect. Maybe it's a little bit different. It makes some people mad. Some people don't understand it, but it works. So, it was really finding yourself that I think matters the most, is figure out who you are and what you're good at, and really owning that and pursuing that with everything that you have, and not being ashamed of that. And that's self-love,
Yes,
and
sir.
so self-love was really the secret to really everything. Because as a kid, I don't know if I love myself.
Yes, sir.
As a grown man, I can firmly say that I do.
Yes, it's very important to self-love. The graduation rate, according to this 2019 publication I read, for Black males in America is like 59% in high school. And I would imagine that there are other Black males who have those same experiences that you have had, and their parents, are dealing with that. What advice would you give to parents as well as Black males who may find themselves in the situation that you experienced, because maybe the educational process is not appealing to them, or they may have legitimate academic challenges? So what advice would you give them that they can keep going and not give up?
Let's start with the educational system. The educational system is really an indoctrination system. That's what it is. It's designed to indoctrinate your child into enough Eurocentric thinking that they can then go and serve a white corporation one day, or maybe even give all their wealth away to a big white university one day. And this does not mean that school is always bad, or that going to college is bad, or that there's something wrong with working for other people, but it's designed to put you into a system. And when you fit into the system well, the system rewards you. You get carrots based on that. That's why studies show that valedictorians are very rarely go on to become millionaires or successful, highly successful people. Valedictorians are the people who were best at honoring the system that they were in. They played by the rules. They sat down, they shut up, and they did what they were supposed to, did what they were told. And the people that are able to bust out of oppression, in my view, are the people who break the rules and break them strategically and know which rules to follow and which ones don't. And so, I think that when you talk about the Black male, there is nobody less fit for the American school system than the Black male. There's nobody more damaged and harmed by that school system than the Black male. And because even when he plays by the rules, he still is rejected at various stages along the process of life. The university, the corporation, all these institutions are not designed to empower the Black male, particularly the heterosexual Black male. So what we have to really just accept and acknowledge is that this is not the answer for us at all, ever, on any level. It does not mean that school is bad. It means that school must be supplemented. It is so effectively what I would just generally say is, number one, obviously don't give up on your kids. Thank God nobody gave up on me. My biological father wasn't there. I had a stepfather who stepped in. He's not my stepfather though. He's my real father. But that's what, there were people that didn't give up on me. Number two, find your strength, right? Connect what you're learning with what you're going to need to know in life. So if you have a son that's 14 and you're thinking about, his grades were bad, that could mean something, right? It could mean that there's some things to do in terms of discipline and work ethic and being able to do the hard things in order to be able to get to the easier life, right? Because a lot of kids are trained to want to take the shortcut, that instant gratification. Like I want to imitate the finish line, but I don't want to imitate the race. I don't want to imitate the training required to get there. I just want to imitate the shine and the bling and the success at the end, right? So there's value systems that can be built around, the discipline it takes to do well in school. So there's nothing wrong with that. But then I encourage you, imagine your son is a 30-year-old Black man in America, right? He's no longer playing sports. 99% of the time, he's no longer, engaged in the things that he did in high school. Now he's dealing with the real world. And his quality of life is based on typically three major areas: his health, his wealth, his relationships, his physical and mental health. What are you doing to help your child have a healthy mind and a healthy body? What are they eating? What are they thinking? What are you putting into their brain? Because our children's brains are being poisoned. That's how they're oppressing us. Wealth. Are you investing for your child? Is he going to have economic security, or is he going to be out here running around like a slave, ducking and dodging economic bullets that are being shot at his head every day? The number one struggle I see for a lot of young brothers is, I can't get a job, can't get no money, child support got me down, struggling, don't know what to do, etc. Right? Relationships. What are his skills in terms of conflict resolution so he can get along with other black men as opposed to escalating conflicts that lead to black men being murdered and going to prison? How well does he respect the black woman? Does he see the black woman as a piece of crap and that he can just misuse and mistreat? Or does he treat the right women in the right way and understand his role as a protector and a provider and a backbone for the community? How does he look at even children? If he has children, does he feel an innate to the death till death do us part responsibility to take care of those kids? Or is he a guy that will go plant his seed in anything walking by and then act like he ain't had nothing to do with it? So if you look at those three areas, health, wealth, and relationships, and make sure your child is educated and provided for and incentivized in those three key areas, that to me is an educated black man. To hell with, biology class and reading Shakespeare. I mean, don't get me wrong, reading, writing, math, that's all fundamental. But I don't know a single black person who walks around having to quote Shakespeare every day, or recite crap that he learned in 10th grade biology class. But I know a whole lot of black men who are dealing with child support, who are dealing with money problems, who are dealing with health issues, physical and mental. That's where the education should center: health,
Yes,
wealth,
sir.
and relationships.
Wow. And it's something, also I came across in 2004, you completed your first book, which was titled Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About College, a Guide for Minority Students. Now 17 years later, how relevant would you say that book is still to, minority students on college campuses today?
Well, when I wrote that book, Everything You Ever Want to Know About College, that was my first book, and it was badly done in the sense that I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just trying to do something different from what I was doing at Syracuse University. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew that what I had wasn't it. But I wrote this book because I wanted all of us, our young people that do go to college, to know that this is not a complex puzzle. And as a college professor, I knew all the secrets. I know what your teacher's thinking. I know what they want. I know how to get through the system and make you good grades or whatever you're trying to do. So that was my goal. It was my goal is to be a brain dump for anybody that's going to college, to help get rid of the mystery of doing well in school. I got lucky in college. I figured out formulas by, again, going off the grid, breaking rules, getting out of systems. And I realized, hey, wait a minute, this is easy, And now, mind you, maybe I have a little bit more intelligence, right? And I acknowledge that, but a lot of it was just basic stuff, I didn't understand, I didn't understand how you think you could study 3 hours a week and still do well in school, or I didn't understand why in some of the Greek letter organizations, preparing for the step show was more important than preparing for the math test. That didn't make sense to me. So, or why, who said that you can't go to the library like the Chinese students and study at 10:30 on a Saturday night? If you want to succeed and you want to really be the best in the world at what you do, you put in that grind, and it starts up here. So these were just little things I said, maybe if I help to lay out a blueprint, that I can help some of the young people that want to be successful to get past the broken victim mindset that says, because I'm black, the best I can do is barely get by, and I'm barely surviving, I'm barely scraping by. What role do you play in your strugglenomics situation? Sure, we know what the white man does. We know what white supremacy, white systems, we know all of that. But what are you doing to contribute to that? Where are you playing a part in that process? And I think that line of personal responsibility is something it's not necessarily encouraged in our community. And people think that when you talk about personal responsibility, you're not acknowledging racism. And I acknowledge that fully. I fully understand that white people will never love me that much. But then after you let go of that and stop looking for love in all the wrong places, the question is, do you love you that much? And that's the problem. It ain't the problem that he don't love you, because they don't love nobody. The problem is that you don't love you.
Right. That's a excellent points, man. Even though you said that was your first book, you didn't think it was too good, but I believe what you're saying is still relevant and needed today. So we're coming up upon our first break, Dr. Watkins, and we're going to pause from some announcements from our public sponsors. And for those who are watching, we're here interviewing our brother, Dr. Boyce Watkins. So please make sure you're back after the break to hear more of his interview. Thank you.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Asiatic Minds, online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness, as well as the greatness of our people, and upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. Call now, 502-219-4848.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
The hashtag Bank Black social media campaign made strides not only in revolutionizing how we bank, but also how we think. The movement inspired thousands of African Americans across the country to transfer or deposit millions of dollars into Black-owned banks. These are banks that will invest in urban communities, employ African Americans, support Black businesses, and inspire Black home ownership. This is a very proud moment for our culture as we are taking small, but significant, steps towards building Black power through Black wealth.
Thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Clifton Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
We're back, brothers and sisters, to continue our interview with Dr. Boyce Watkins. For those who are watching, please make sure you share this link and also comment and let us know what you think about the interview. Doc, my next question, I want to ask you that several weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, Nicole Hannah Jones was in the headlines after, again, making her decision known that she would deny she didn't accept the position to continue working at the white school she was at, and she was going to accept the position at Howard. And she felt that she came under attack because of her work with the 1619 Project, which angered some white conservatives who were big sponsors or donors to the school. And while preparing for this interview, I came across an article in 2009 where you spoke about how you felt your tenure was denied because of your on-air confrontation with Bill O'Reilly. And my question I want to ask you is, do you think that such pressures keep more Black professors from being bold on these college campuses, even Black college campuses and white college campuses?
Yeah, brother. A lot of our we have a big brain drain in the Black community. We don't just have a drain like on our athletes and our rappers. We also have a drain on our scholars. Most Black scholars I know are afraid of their own shadow. They're scared to really speak up on much of anything that does not please their white colleagues. And so the safest space that they can find is to be accepted by the white liberal establishment. The problem with that, though, is that's a form of intellectual imperialism, because white liberals are one of the biggest white nationalist groups in the country in terms of their oppression of Black people and our ideas. A lot of the things that white liberals push into the Black community, for example, the oddly disguised Black Lives Matter movement, are built on value systems that don't always resonate with a big chunk of our community. For example, those who maybe live in the tradition of Malcolm X, which I would include myself in that category, and Marcus Garvey. We believe in things like family, strong community, building wealth, and we're not necessarily keen to want to wear our sexuality on our sleeves. I don't want my children to be sexualized at the age of 6. And so sometimes white liberals come along with their own ideas and their own values, and it's almost like they give Black scholars permission on what they're allowed to talk about, not allowed to talk about. And so with that said, I think academia it's an institution that's really heavily built on white liberal indoctrination. A lot of our Black students that go to college and they go to these institutions and they become pro-Black in a certain kind of way that does not always help achieve the goal in terms of what I think the community really needs. And what I mean by that is, for example, a lot of white liberal activism is rooted in Marxism, communism, and socialism. That the civil rights movement, the Black Panther Party, et cetera. That's why the leaders of Black Lives Matter were all trained Marxists. Now, Marxism is not a terrible ideology. I think the ideas of Karl Marx are not that bad. I think they're worth reading and listening to. However, what it does do, unfortunately, is it creates a very anti-business, anti-traditional family kind of mindset, where you start accusing Black men of being filled with toxic masculinity. You start attacking Black business owners. You start, pushing ideologies that are devoid of the importance of wealth creation and wealth development as a key to economic power. And then at the end of the day, they falsely train you to believe that Black success is predicated upon being closer to white people, that the closer you are to white folks, the more they accept you, the more they tell you that Black lives matter, the more successful you are. So you'll hear them say, look at all the progress we've made over the last 40 years. Well, that progress, there is no progress. It's false progress, because if you look at Black quality of life in terms of economics, there has not been progress. We've only gone backward. If you look at Black quality of life in terms of education, there's no progress. We're only going backwards. If you look at Black family structures, there hasn't been no progress. We've only gone backwards. And so what I've actually just simply said is that all of us, scholars and everyone in between, we need to kind of let go of the white liberal nipple in terms of developing who we are. We need to develop that independently and have the sovereignty necessary to develop our own institutions, our own ideas, our own businesses, create our own jobs, educate our own kids, so that they can know what it really means to be an empowered Black person without thinking that somehow white integration is a qualification to make you a successful Negro. So basically in academia, that you see a lot of that. The universities, they feel that they can't be racist because they're not Republican, right? They feed that nonsense narrative. I was from the South, and I never ran into more racism in my career than I did when I went to the North and worked with the white liberals at Syracuse University. They were very uncomfortable with my work. They gave me a very hard time with my work. I was the most successful, most well-regarded scholar on that entire campus, and they literally acted like my work didn't exist and that it didn't matter. Well, why did you think it didn't matter? Well, they didn't feel like it mattered because it didn't matter to white people. But I had Black people all around the world who were messaging me 15 years ago saying your work changed my life. So basically a lot of scholars are caught in that trap. Where the trap goes deeper is that the scholars dedicate so much time. It takes a long time to really get a PhD, meaning the high level PhD necessary to go teach at a big university. It takes a lot. You dedicate a lot of your energy to that. And what happens is you get focused and specialized on one tiny little niche, and you learn how to do one thing really, really well, so you can get published in these academic journals that nobody reads. And then what happens though is when they screw you, when they don't give you tenure, when they decide they don't want you anymore, these people have nowhere to go. They all they can do is sit and beg and grovel to maintain their position. And again, that's where breaking rules was beneficial, because I said, wait a minute, hold on, let me get this right. So you're telling me that the reason I got to give up my freedom of speech, that I have to sit here like a little boy and be quiet and bow to you and kiss your feet, is so what? I can get a lifetime job? So what you're saying to me is tenure is basically welfare for smart people. Got it. So I figured out a very basic idea. I said, okay, getting tenure is really, really hard. Making white people happy is really hard. I don't know how to do that. But also making a lot of money, making enough money to be financially secure is hard. But I think I can do that. I think that will be easier than getting white people to like me, because they never liked me my whole life. And a lot of Black people don't like me either, and I accept it. I'm fine with that. And so I took my energy and said, let me go and do the thing I know I need to do as a Black man, which is to get enough economic security so that I can be independent of that system. And what that usually means for most Black people is figuring out how to make about $5,000 a month without having a job working for somebody else. So for most people, $5,000 a month is the difference between a complete life of freedom and a complete life of slavery. so and it's not that hard to do. So once I figured that out, I was able to stand a little bit taller. The Bill O'Reilly controversy went down, and they were trying to get me fired and use these typical scare tactics. And the thing that allowed me to stand up and basically just tell them to go to hell was I knew that my bills would be paid. If I lost my job, I wasn't scared of losing my job. I wasn't scared of being blackballed. I wasn't scared of any of those things. And I think a lot of scholars should understand that when they go into academia. So when Nicole Hannah-Jones went through that nonsense in North Carolina, I will say, just to be honest about it, my wife, who is a full professor of social work, she's right there in the institution, in the establishment. She gets it, but she has her own business. We kind of actually felt that we weren't sure how much she actually really is somebody that you would automatically think should get tenure anyway, because she doesn't have a PhD, and she's kind of from the outside. And so this assumption that because she's black, she automatically deserved tenure, I think that's a bad assumption. However, the racism that exists at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill is undeniable. It's historic. It's well documented. It's there. I'm happy that she went to Howard. I'm happy that Ta-Nehisi Coates went to Howard, Felicia Rashad. I think that our HBCUs could use that support. But what is also important to understand, for those of you that really want to solve the problem and understand what it's going to take to move the community forward, is to realize that even the HBCUs are failing the Black community tremendously. They're failing the Black community in one key way. Think about it like this. Dr. Claude Anderson, who wrote Powernomics, one of the most influential economic books in the history of this country, lives a few miles away from Howard University. Howard University has had tons of speakers come to that school, white people, corporate executives, whatever. They've never once engaged with Dr. Claude Anderson. So why would a historic HBCU like Howard refuse to engage with a Black man who literally changed the face of the last election? I mean, Ice Cube and Kanye West were tweeting his book because they said, okay, this is the solution. This makes sense. Well, it's because he does not fit into the white liberal establishment box. And also, he doesn't talk about the thing that Howard does best, which is to manufacture more Black employees for white corporations. If you look, that's what they brag about. We have a Black person that went to work at Goldman Sachs. We have a Black person that went to go work at Bank of America. This Black person went to work for Procter & Gamble. What Dr. Anderson is saying, which is 100% true, is that you need to stop focusing all your energy on mass producing more Black employees, because that's actually giving wealth to white people. You need to start mass producing Black people that can build industry. You need to build businesses and create jobs for your children instead of sending your children off into slavery so they can work for somebody else. Now, the last point I'll make on this is that this is now proven. This is now an undeniable fact. The Wall Street Journal just reported last week that Black wealth has actually dropped, and a big reason it's going down is because of the college graduates that are all going to work for white people. They're not building companies that are building wealth for Black people. They're working as employees for white folks that's making white people rich. So at the end of the day, we have to rethink all of this. So I'm glad Nicole Hannah-Jones is at Howard University, but honestly, if Howard continues to operate the way it does now, and a lot of HBCUs, they're not going to do anything to contribute positively to the wealth gap until they start creating industry. That's what they have to do.
And we're coming up on our 2-minute break, but I want to get this question in. And if you can, within this 2 minutes, you left and you begin to start doing for self. And you said that how that was a scary decision. And many people find themselves on jobs that they don't like, not making enough money, but they're afraid to leave because of fear. Can you briefly give some advice on how to overcome that fear?
Yeah, and I'll be brief, man. I know it's got to be hard to keep me in a box.
No,
I
listen,
apologize, man. Yeah, I saw that. I said, "Oh, boy, you're talking too much," but I had to get it out.
No, you got it. Good.
But I'll be quick on that. Fear is something that exists in all of us, and we have to understand the history of our trauma and how that plays a part in our fear, because fear affects your perception of risk. Becoming an entrepreneur is very risky. There's the upside, there's the downside. We tend to see the downside. And also what makes it worse is the people around us see the downside. So you're not necessarily getting the encouragement you need to go take a chance, because you have a thin margin of error. If you fail, you got a whole bunch of Negroes standing there. None of those people supported you now, but they're all standing there waiting to say, I told you so, right? So what I encourage people to do is understand that, when you're talking about getting off the corporate plantation, you got to liberate yourself here first. That means getting involved in things that are going to help you develop that part of yourself that makes you confident. I told you about self-love. Self-love is critical to self-confidence. If you love yourself, then you will always bet on you. You will always stand with you. You will forgive yourself when you make a mistake. You will never, if you love yourself, you're never ashamed of yourself. So that's why I will say, I don't use myself as a perfect example because I'm still working. But when I go out and I do something where I say, man, that was stupid, or I messed up there, because I love myself, I'm not ashamed of myself. So I'm always going to keep being myself, no matter what anybody has to say. You got to kind of build some of that inside of you, and that's what's going to make you great.
Yo, that key of love for self is so important. And that's one of the foundational principles in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is this: know thyself and then love thyself. So we're coming up on our next break. And for those who are here, I hope you all are enjoying the interview with our brother, Dr. Boyce Watkins, who's dropping many jewels and much stuff that we can go back and analyze and study. So we're going to pause from some announcements from our public sponsors, and we'll be right back to continue this interview with our brother.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
So we're back, brothers and sisters, to continue our interview with Dr. Boyce Watkins. Make sure you're sharing this and tagging others to tune in and watch it as well. You know, Doc, I watched several of your videos, man, and your boldness reminds me of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So I'll ask you this two-part question. Can you share the first time you heard, or when you first actually met the minister? And also, how come, unlike many others, you have not succumbed to the pressure and the fear tactics that people place on Black athletes, Black intellectuals when it comes to associating with the minister? Why is that?
Well, to answer that question first of all, I'm humbled, and I can't even I don't even know how to respond to any comparison between me and Minister Farrakhan. There is no comparison in my view. This man is extraordinary, and I first started to learn about him when I was in college, and right before the Million Man March, and he helped me open my eyes in terms of understanding the complexities of American racism and just what power and strength and manhood really look like. And so you know, when I got the chance to sit with the minister, it was obviously overwhelming. You know, we sat for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and I remember sitting there thinking, this is unbelievable that this man at the age that he was at the time, I think he was in his 80s, that he has so much energy, you know, and he was it wasn't like, for some people you have a private version of the person and a public version. They're not always the same. They switch it off and on. It was the private version was just like the public version. I said, this is he's giving me a personal Farrakhan speech. This is unbelievable. And his energy was so strong, and the wisdom was there, and it was one of those meetings that you just never forget. And so, with that said, it reminded me a lot of when I met Dr. Claude Anderson, also in the sense that Dr. Anderson talks about Black people all the time. He's thinking about Black people all the time. He's 100% B1 Black first all the time, and that to me is to be honored, because you don't have a lot of people who do that. You have a lot of people who talk about Black people as an add-on, you know, like with the undercard, you know, like, oh, well, let's talk about global warming and the Democratic Party. Oh, let's throw Black people in there too. No, these men put Black people first, and that's what we really need in our leadership. And so, so in terms of, and I'm trying to remember that you asked me, how
come you haven't fell victim to those, to the Farrakhan litmus test, the pressure that they put on people?
Because the way my dad raised me was to understand that manhood means sticking by whatever it is that you are and what you believe, and knowing that that's not going to be easy, and knowing that loyalty is paramount, and so that type of stuff just doesn't bother me at all. I know what it is, you know. There's nothing that they have that I really want anyway. And so there's nothing that they've given me that they're even able to take away, because I usually don't accept it. You know, when we do the All Black National Convention, we don't use government money. We don't use corporate money. When people typically fold, in my view, it comes down to carrots and sticks and incentives. You see, the way the United States government controls countries around the world is they kind of do honestly what me and my wife do to the kids. When the kids come up and they say, Mama, I want a new iPhone. We're like, okay, let's get them the new iPhone. So then now we have something we could take away when they get out of line. Right? So this is standard protocol, right? Because we're the government up in here. You know, we spy and everything. We got COINTELPRO going on with the teenagers, all that stuff, right? So basically, as their parents, we'll give you something just so I know now I can control your behavior by threatening to take that thing away. Now, that's what a parent does with a child. If you're trying to discipline your child, I think that's okay, right? But it's not okay when white people are doing it to black people, because white folks are not your parents. But what we've allowed them to do is to take the role of our parents, to give us carrots so they can threaten to take the carrots away. Like, okay, I'm going to make you famous. I'm going to give you some money. I'm Nick Cannon. I'm going to make you rich. And then when you get out of line, I'm going to be able to take you out back and whip you like an 8-year-old in front. And I'm going to do it in front of everybody because I need to make sure you're fully butt broken in front of the other alleged alpha males, so that they will understand that the only way to survive is to bow down early, right? So if you understand how these things work, you understand why things like economic and educational sovereignty, things like owning our own media are so critically important. Me standing up or not bowing to the pressure is not hard to do if you never became addicted to the dope in the first place. I never took in the drug of white supremacy. I don't want their money. I don't want to be mainstream. I don't want to be on TV. I don't want any of that. And that was a training. I trained my brain to think that way, so that, look, I'm going to reject everything you're going to offer me in advance, so that later on, when you're trying to get control of me, you won't have no levers to pull on. And so it's not that I'm extraordinarily courageous. It's that maybe at best, I thought ahead on this. I was a little more strategic about it, because you can't go taking all money ain't good money. Some people will give you money just so they can manage
control you. That's true. Beautiful, beautiful. I was told that in around 2014, when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan relaunched the Muhammad Economic Blueprint, I was informed that you were one of the diverse group of people who were skilled in economy and finance who was present. Can you talk about that whole experience and what went on? And
Yeah, I didn't know it was all the way back in 2014. I didn't know that. But yeah, we flew out to Arizona and we sat in a room, and there were it was myself and about 12 other very smart people with Minister Farrakhan at the head of the table, and we sat in that room for maybe 10 hours, I think, maybe 12 hours, and the minister sat with us the entire time. Again, I was impressed. He didn't have to get up and go take a nap. None of that. I needed a nap, but it was a great experience to just sit down and to hear very logical, intelligent, rational people who really care about the Black community making long-term strategic plans for Black people. And I think that's something that you don't see much. I think that needs to be the kind of thing that we talk about more in our community, because that's how you become powerful, is you plan ahead. Sun Tzu in The Art of War said that battles are won well before they begin. So the question that I ask anybody who is the head of a family is, what is the 50-year, 100-year plan for your family? Do you have a 50-year plan for your family? And so being a part of that was a true honor. And I thought that it was right on point, and I was very, very happy to participate.
And also, I saw an interview. I think you did this on social media. I don't know, it was Instagram, YouTube. You talked about how blown away you were and how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan responded to the critique of our sister Yvette Carnell. Can you talk more about that? Because I know it's amazing. Like, for us who would love the minister, it gets under our skin when people try to take shots at him. But, I've sat at the table with the minister and how he handles stuff. I'm just like, my goodness,
Well, a strong Black man, a strong masculine heterosexual Black male is always going to have enemies, from whether it's feminism, LGBT, etc. And so, so the minister is a likely target, and it's a beautiful thing to see, because he handles that very well. And with Yvette Carnell, it's interesting. Yvette I remember she had no platform in 2012, and she reached out to me to ask me to share her articles. And I actually helped her to create her Breaking Brown website. And I saw that her ideas were different from mine, but I saw it as a chance for diverse thinking. I was totally okay with, I'm okay if you disagree with me, because that helps me expand my thinking, because the good ideas are all over the place. Like I encourage people not get caught up in this whole, I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican kind of mindset, because sometimes Republicans have good ideas. Sometimes Democrats have good ideas. So with Yvette, I was not threatened by diverse perspectives, because that's what you're supposed to do as a scholar, and so what happened that really bothered me was that it got to the point where Yvette was doing something that I've seen other people do. When I started sharing my platform, they started using it as power to take shots at people, and then she took a shot at Farrakhan, and I thought it was unfair, because it's one thing to say I disagree with the minister. That's fine. You can say whatever, you can disagree, but it's another thing to try to discredit and to destroy somebody that is loved and admired by so many people. You don't have to do that. That's not necessary. And what I really thought was interesting was the way the brothers from the Nation responded really reflected the class that the Nation of Islam has. It was much classier than her initial action and her reaction, meaning that they were fired up. I don't blame them. Right? The things you're saying deserve a response, but they were incredibly respectful to her, to the platform, to everything else, and they just wanted to debate her. So there was a young brother out in California, I can't remember his name, but he came on. Can you give me his name again?
Salih,
yeah. He came on and I mean nailed it, like broke it down, like and I was listening. I said, "Ooh, this is good. Okay, go ahead, man." And then I reached out to Yvette and said, this brother would like to debate you. It's respectful. He's not going to cuss you out. He's not a thug. He's not going to be disrespectful. And Yvette declined. And what that showed me is that showed how a lot of the liberals, and the white liberals in particular, kind of act. They feel like they can throw the rock and hide their hand, or that they can attack, but then claim to be the victim, right? So when you counterattack, it's like, oh, I'm so afraid, I'm frightened now. Your toxic masculinity is well, you know what? Don't start no fight if you can't finish it, or don't come out and do something if you can't stand by what you did. So what happened at that point was I was real concerned, because I said, gosh, I'd like to talk to the minister directly about this, so that he doesn't think that I wanted her to say these things, because I didn't. So I just went over there to his house. He lived right around the corner from me. I lived 2 blocks from him and 2 blocks from Obama. That by accident. I moved to Chicago. My manager just picked an apartment. It happened to be 2 blocks from each of them. I never cared about going to Obama's. I loved going to the minister's house. So I walked over there, and didn't know what to expect. And we talked about the controversy. And you know what he said that blew my mind? He said, not only is it everything forgiven, but I want you to encourage her to keep speaking. And I was like, whoa. and you know how you look at, you're like, oh, I wonder if that's like what, like some people say things on the surface, but really they mean something else. Yeah. I saw no double talk in any of that. And I said, okay, that's how a real man responds, to nonsense. You don't have to go to that level. And I already respected the minister immensely, but I gained even more respect in that conversation. And so just speaking on Yvette, the thing that's really sad is that she completely ruined a huge opportunity with the ADOS movement. I think that was a wonderful opportunity to rally millions of people around the cause of reparations. But because certain things in her and the other guy, Tone, what's his name? He also used to share my platform. I had to tell him to go because the energy wasn't good. But because their energy is so bad, and because they have this weird pettiness and jealousy, it became very tribal, very toxic, very I don't like that Negro, that black person, that black person, and it completely it got completely undermined. Next thing you know, you done made enemies of all these people that could have been your allies. You're attacking Dr. Claude Anderson, for God's sake. Dr. Anderson didn't even know who Yvette Carnell was. He's like, who's this lady on the internet that's attacking? It's one of those things where it was just sad. I wish they had done more with it. I was prepared to drop the hammer and let go of any pre-existing differences I had with her to support the movement. And so I think I tweeted something like, I support the ADOS movement because we're all American descendants of slaves. And then I get a tweet back, you can't be a part of this movement. You blah, blah, blah. So that's an example where the ADOS movement is full of a lot of really good people who want to do the right thing, who are really being cursed and poisoned by incredibly bad leadership.
Beautiful, Doc. Thank you, man. It's just so much. Your responses are filled with so much. Thank you. So we're coming up on our last break. And so for those who are watching, we're going to pause for some announcements from our sponsors. And we're going to be back with our brother, Dr. Boyce Watkins, where you can find out how you can support and tune in to hear him on a weekly basis as well.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.
Asiatic Minds, online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness as well as the greatness of our people. And upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. Classes begin September 1st. To enroll, visit AsiaticMinds.com. Greetings from National Network View. This week's Final Call cover story headline reads, "Separate and Be Saved. America's race problems and deadly race interactions are growing worse. It is time we leave the children of our former slave masters and 400-year-old tormentors. Separation from whites is the only and best solution to this problem, a serious problem that is rooted in prophecy." This FCN Volume Number 41 edition middle page article by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is entitled, "A Case for Separation." To read more, subscribe to FinalCallDigital.com and tune in to the all-new Final Call Radio. This is the NNVNews.com Final Call Cover Report.
He anointed our head with oil till our cup runneth over. He who, Master Farrakhan, Muhammad, that is he.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
Please make sure you leave your comments and questions in the comment section below. Follow us on Facebook, National Network View, and make sure to check us out on Twitter as well, National Network View. This is Sergio Gutierrez with National Network View, signing off.
We're back, family. We'll continue with this interview with our brother Dr. Boyce Watkins. And Dr. Watkins, I just have two last questions. One, I saw also that you had the opportunity to visit our school there in the city of Chicago, Muhammad University. So what was that experience like? And what did you share with the students?
If I had a dream that I could have fulfilled with the snap of my fingers, I would get $100 billion and take the model of that school and spread it all throughout the United States. It's one sign of racism, one clear sign of the racial mental illness of racism in America is that there's this constant conversation about how difficult it is to educate our children, and things like that. And the reality is that that's already being done. We've already got schools that are doing it. We just don't fund those schools. The only models they will fund and support typically are models that are just not working, or schools that are turning our black kids into somebody else, something that they're not. The Muhammad University of Islam was visiting that school was like visiting those 15, 16-year-old children were asking me questions that are typically asked by graduate students. And so, I was floored by it. I was honored to talk to them. And it was one of those times where you feel excited because you get an opportunity to influence children that are going to change the world. So it was life-changing.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we know for those who are watching, I know you have various platforms, various programs. How can those who are watching support you in the various programs that you offer? I know one time my wife she took and enrolled in one of the financial courses that you were doing some years ago back. So what programs are you having? How can people support you?
One thing that people can do that doesn't cost anything is we actually have a book club where we're reading Dr. Claude Anderson's book, Black Labor, White Wealth, and I'm breaking it down into lectures and analyzing it for the students. And you can join that for free, and you get free access to my life class also by doing that. It's blackkeystogreatness.com. That's blackkeystogreatness.com. And that's something people can do to get started for free. Now, there are other programs in the Black Business School. Our goal is to create a first-class Black Wealth University that is focused on utilizing Powernomics and B1 philosophies to elevate our community out of the situation that we've been in for the last 200-300 years. And the B1 philosophy says that we believe that our community needs to come first. We have to focus on ourselves and solve our own problems. Stop waiting for Superman. Stop putting other people first. B1 also means that our children, the B1 children, will be world leaders when it comes to economics, wealth building, real estate acquisition, etc. by the year 2070. We call that Project 2070. And then also B1 means we understand we must be one in order to be successful. That means learning how to work together, learning how to maintain strong families, because you can't build wealth without family. There's no community on earth that is able to build wealth without strong families. And when you're able to come together as a group, you are creating wealth in that process, because economics is a team sport. It's not done well individually. And so effectively, that's what we do. And we're the best in the world at it. We have all kinds of scholars associated, dozens and dozens of scholars, from Dr. Claude Anderson to billionaire Mike Roberts. He's come through. We've had all kinds of great people, and they cover everything from hotel acquisition to cryptocurrency to everything else. So blackkeystogreatness.com is a good place to start, because then you can join the Wednesday book club. But then we have other programs as well.
Sir, and this closing question I want to ask this, because recently the NCAA Board of Directors, they adopted this interim policy that's going to permit current student athletes to make money off their names, their images, and their likenesses. But it was interesting. You have been advocating for such for years, even when you were a college student, right? So Blacks make up 55% of the athletes in the NCAA. So from your perspective, is there a way that this policy can be used by Black athletes to help them begin creating a more sound financial future, if possible?
Yeah. Is there a way that the athletes? Okay. So for the athletes, paying the athletes was always a no-brainer. That was not even you don't have to even be that smart to really know that people should be paid for their labor. And if you're making billions of dollars for somebody else, why aren't you getting a piece of that money? Those were a set of rules specifically designed for Black people, for the exploitation of Black people. And this is something that's been going on for a long time. I would say for the athletes now, the floodgates have finally opened. And I'm sure that the coaches and administrators hate it, but they're going to get used to it. I'm very happy for them. They are going to have access to power, economic power. And with power, great power comes great responsibility. So the question for each athlete is, you got the power now, what are you going to do with that? And what you have to overcome is the fact that there is a culture that's associated with athletics that is not always very healthy. It's very toxic. It's very anti-wealth, anti-family, anti-intelligence, all kinds of things. And it can lead to self-destruction. So I think that a lot of athletes, you're going to see a lot of college athletes become multimillionaires as a result of the rules changes. And it's, at the same time, you're going to see some sad stories too. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. And at the end of the day, they deserve this. They deserve, and the NCAA is getting off easy. They're still able to get these multi-million-dollar assets on their campus and pay them literally a fraction of what they're truly worth. And I think that that's an okay deal in the sense that, universities can provide you with exposure. If you use the educational process right, you can get a good education, et cetera. Hopefully the HBCUs will get a piece of that pie also. So it's a deal that works a little bit better for everybody, because it didn't make any sense when you had those days where you had some guy who's making $20 million a year for his university, but he can't even buy a bag of groceries. And that's almost medieval in terms of that level of torture. So I'm real happy about that. And you're right. I started writing about that about 25 years ago in 1996. And when even back then, when I would write those articles on the University of Kentucky campus, the coach, Rick Pitino at the time, the coaches told the athletes, not to read my articles. One of the athletes snuck away like a little runaway slave. He snuck to my office and said, that they don't, like almost like a plantation type of, boss, they don't want they don't want us reading your articles, but we read them anyway.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
So I said, anybody who's blocking you from ideas is not your friend. Anybody who's blocking you from knowledge is not your friend. They are pimping you. That's what pimps do. Pimps, they control their prostitutes by making sure they don't get information that's going to empower them. That makes you easier to pimp.
Yeah. Well, Doc, we thank you for your time, man. And we know you're so busy. We appreciate your time. And whatever it is that we can do, anything that you have going on, keep us posted. And can you once again mention that the website for the book club and also the other classes again? And any closing words that you have too, you feel free to share it.
Okay. First thing I'll say is I'm extremely optimistic about the future of a group of our people. I think that when you talk about the B1 community, meaning Black first, those who put our community first, our families first, our people first, our children first, the future is going to be bright. There is no wealth gap in that space. The racial wealth gap exists amongst those who are trying to beat white people in a white system. Those who walked away from that actually have a higher stock market participation rate than most millionaires. Their children are very well educated. They are starting to acquire real estate and assets, and you're starting to see this seep into the culture. And this was my goal in the very beginning, back when it wasn't cool to talk about economics. My dream was to one day see a time where it does become cool, where rappers start rapping about it and people are just talking about it in everyday conversation. And I think we've accomplished that goal. The beauty of it, though, is that this is just the beginning. I think that this is a 50, 100-year process that's going to lay out not just with us, but really with our kids and our grandkids. They're the ones who are going to take it to the next level because we're doing what wealthy families do. We're planting the seeds for them. So you're going to see children of this movement, in my view, and grandchildren out of this movement who are going to be doing better than the Jews. They're going to be doing better than anybody else. And they're going to be doing better than the Arabs. They're going to be doing better than the Asians because they're going to truly understand what it means to compete in a globally competitive society. So I'm very optimistic about it. And I'm not really worried about 2021. I'm thinking about 2071, where we'll be then. And we're going to be in a great place. Last thing I'll say on that is the URL to join the book club. If anybody wants to join, it's totally free. Is blackkeystogreatness.com. That's blackkeystogreatness.com. Also, we have the All Black National Convention at the end of October. The All Black National Convention, we're going to gather in Orlando the last weekend of October, the 29th through November 1st, for 4 days, but you don't have to stay for the whole 4. And during those 4 days, we're going to do everything necessary to build a stronger B1 community. So that means obviously covering the economics. We got that covered. We got breakout sessions and everything from crypto to stocks to real estate to entrepreneurship. I got all my experts coming in, etc. We're also going to do panels and breakouts on things related to politics, what's going on in the hip hop music industry, how we can conquer that, what it means to, issues related to Black men and Black women relationships. And then also we're going to do some fun stuff. Those who are single that are looking for a partner, we're going to have speed dating. We're going to have also speed networking. If you're not looking for a romantic partner, but you're looking for a business partner, we're going to form groups so that you can invest together and form investment clubs. And we're also going to have the B1. We're going to have basically a ball and an award show. So we're going to do a lot of cool stuff, and we're really excited. And we put up $100,000 of our money, no corporate sponsors, no government money. We're doing this. It's going to be ours. Nobody controls the narrative but us. And if people want to know more about it, they can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com.
Yes, sir. And what we'll do, we'll make sure, and I'll personally make sure that I share that on my social media handles as well and spread it to others. Thank you, my brother. And may God continue to bless you and your family. So whatever we can do here at NNV National Network View, please let us know, man. And thank you again for granting us this opportunity.
Thank you, brother, for having me. This has been a fun conversation.
Yes, sir. Peace.
Peace.
And thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you share this interview. Make sure you comment. Also, make sure you the book club our brother talked about, the event that's going to take place at the end of October. He said we're going to have all of those links. Make sure you support. Make sure you also share it and put the word out, because brother is an example of something that we should study, and he's an example that we can get free from off of these plantations and be able to be our genuine selves with loving ourselves. So as we get ready to close, as we always do, for those who are watching, if you want to help us here in the city of New Orleans, we're working to pay off the mortgage of our mosque. And by thus far, we're getting contributions in, and we want to do it. We have this mortgage is with a black bank, but we want to put a rest to that mortgage so we can begin to start using those funds to begin to start doing more outreach in our community and even building ourselves to be even stronger economically. Because here in the city of New Orleans, we are, by God's grace, we own a whole city block. To the left of our mosque, we have rental properties, right? And so we have this block, but we want to do more as it relates to development and just continue to do more. In addition to that, you know, in regards to this COVID, I know it's on everybody's mind with these they're trying to mandate the vaccines, and people are losing their life to COVID and also underlying conditions. And just whatever you may be going through, if you need some prayer, for us to say some prayer on your behalf, please send an email to mos46av@gmail.com or reach out to us on social media, and we will do that. So thank you, brothers and sisters, for tuning into National Network View. This is your brother Willie Muhammad. Peace.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.